Good afternoon, and welcome to the Columbus Metropolitan Club. Good afternoon, I'm Neil Juris, Senior Director of Communications with the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. Our friends know us as MORPC, and I'm also a member of the CMC Board of Trustees. Today's live stream is presented by the Center for Human Kindness at the Columbus Foundation and by the Columbus Dispatch. Let's thank all of those supporting today's forum. In 1795, the Commonwealth of Virginia employed Lucas Sullivant to survey the central Ohio portion of the Virginia Military District. Sullivant surveyed the western side of the Scioto River at the confluence of the Olentangy and Scioto Rivers, which is right outside our windows here at the boathouse. This area, known as Franklinton, today is the oldest part of Columbus. Its mix of residential streets and former industrial areas is now home to 5 parks, art galleries, and event spaces, and over 8,000 residents. The current resurgence of Franklinton was made possible by the 2004 completion of the Franklinton Floodwall. This 7-mile-long barrier has helped Franklinton reinvent itself. To help us unpack all that's happening in today's Franklinton, please welcome Dr. Kim Campbell, Director of Admissions and Recruitment for the Mount Carmel College of Nursing, Johnny Riddle, Executive Director of the Franklinton Arts District, Trent Smith, Executive Director of Franklinton Board of Trade, Jeffrey Woda, Managing Director and President of Woda Cooper Companies, and our host, Deborah Price, former member of Congress from 1993 to 2008 and a key proponent of the Franklinton Floodwall. You can learn more about today's speakers in your forum flyers. Deb, we look forward to today's conversation.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being here. As you heard in the introduction, I was a member of Congress for 16 years. It was an amazing job. It was a wonderful place to serve when I was there, at least. And I had the honor of being a part of the Franklinton Floodwall agenda. And as was noted, you know, Lucas Sullivant came to Columbus. He surveyed. Unfortunately, he picked the wrong side of the river to develop, and he built a small little village and went away, came back, and it was gone. It was wiped out by a flood. And continuing to rebuild, the same thing continued to happen. And if you look in your flyer, you'll see a picture of what might have been Southwest Florida. We're used to seeing that on TV, circa 1913. And that's what the west side of the confluence, right outside our window, as Neil mentioned, looked like after the 1913 flood. And it's also the reason why Franklinton got such a slow start. There was no investment because there was no development, because there was no insurance, because there was no protection from the flooding that continued to happen. And so years and years and years of confronting these natural disasters, step up, we have the local warriors. And I know I'm going to forget some people, but the ones that I came to be aware of were Helen Evans, Walt Reiner, Dick Bangs, Larry Danderan, and my favorite was Carol Stewart. Now, if any of you are here, no? Any relatives of any of those folks here? Well, let me just tell you a story about Carol. The consummate, wonderful community leader that she was. Before I was even elected to Congress, when I announced my candidacy, she called my campaign office and she didn't request, she kind of insisted that I come and see her and visit the neighborhood, the Franklinton neighborhood that she so loved. And we spent a whole day together, and she showed me the sad past and the pictures, one of these you have in your hands, the kind of the sad present that she lived in, and her vision for what the future could be. And she was just one of many people from the community that was so involved. I mean, she didn't even know if I would win my election, but she spent a whole day of her time educating me to what really was the needs of her community. And then she got government officials involved. One of them is my guest today, the former honorable, always honorable, Mike Stinziano, who was very instrumental, but listens to these names, Price, Stinziano, Dewey Stokes, Greg LaShucka, and with him, our own George Arnold was very involved. Greg LaShucka, I just said him, Mayor Coleman. Now, what do these folks have in common? Well, it isn't their politics. There were Democrats and Republicans alike that were stirred by people from the community, like Carol Stewart, to get on board. And they began back then what we've come to call and know as the Columbus Way. We work together, we get things done, and we don't really give a lot of credence to politics when it comes to what really matters to our communities. So a 15-year project kind of began when I went to Congress and ended right before I left. $130 million project, 80% of that was your federal tax dollars. Only 20% of that came from the city of Columbus. And so you always wonder, where it goes, because really the floodwall is pretty invisible. Where is it? What is it? Who knows how it works? I can't even tell you all those things, but it's 7.2 miles long. It's 2,800 acres involved and 6,200 structures. But it's invisible. But boy, oh boy, if we have an event like we saw in Florida, we'll be glad it's there. And, not only that project, but because we cooperate in this town, we've seen Rickenbacker Intermodal Facility. We've seen the Scioto Bridges all redone, the Scioto Mile, Air Traffic Control Tower out at Port Columbus, the 315 corridor exit onto the hospital properties, COSI, money for Children's Hospital. All of those things happen because we can come to consensus in our community. And I know that many of you listening to the news of late, and not just lately, but over the past many years, might feel like that is something that was long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away. And you might be right a little bit. But today's panel is going to help us understand why we should value the Columbus Way, what we've overcome in the past, and what our future might look like. So let's get to some questions for our panel. And I'm just going to start by asking everyone, and you can go whatever order you would like, talk to us about the changes in Franklinton and how it's becoming more a part of our greater community. Who would like to start?
I'll begin.
Okay.
So thanks to CMC for inviting me to be on the panel. I'm the executive director of the Franklinton Board of Trade, and when I got down to the neighborhood in 2010 to start this work, Carol Stewart, I love hearing stories about Carol because she was my tutor as well when I got to this neighborhood. And it was brutally honest information that she shared with me and brutally honest feedback, but she made me a better person able to lead the organization for it. And so when I got down here, the prospects of what we see today seemed pretty far-fetched. We always knew it was a possibility, but it's when the floodwall got done initially, I think there was this general thought that development was going to happen right away, and it didn't. And I think probably one of the most prime examples of when we could look at a point in time and decide that was the tipping point for me was when 400 West Rich opened up in 2011. That was on October 4th of 2011 that place was christened. And so from there, it just started to roll from there. And so the changes that we've seen since that day have been nothing short of phenomenal, with not only more arts and more types of art. We have a recording studio, we have the glass axis, We have all kinds of different versions of art in the neighborhood, and I think that Carol Stewart would be just terribly proud of what's happened, because she loved beautification, and our motto for our organization is Advocate, Beautify, Connect, and she taught me about that. And so I think the other biggest change that I could point to today is the cleanliness of the neighborhood. And I'll talk more about that. I know you're going to ask a question about that later on, but you know, if you just look around, it doesn't look like 10 years ago. It doesn't look even close to what it looked like 10 years ago.
To you know, build off of what Trent said, I am the executive director of the Franklinton Arts District. I have been with the organization for just under 2 years. So a lot of my understanding of not only the neighborhood but the district comes from the relationships that I've built with Trent and the stories and insights that I get from Bruce Warner and Judy Bach sitting on the Franklinton Area Commission, as well as what's happening in the Arts District from those who have been there from the onset, like Jim Sweeney and Chris Sherman of 400 West Rich. And it has allowed me to have that real thorough, comprehensive understanding of where we have been and where we are going. When I look at the growth of the Arts District in Franklinton, I predate it just a slight bit than 400. I look at Urban Scroll. It is our main live art making festival, started in 2007, right behind Dodge Park on the banks of the Scioto. And it was this small group of artists who wanted to just do something together for the community, and it was very DIY. But from that group grew a creative community that found a home in Franklinton where they could express themselves, have that level of freedom to play jazz. Let's, you know, get wild. Let's do stuff that's not seen anywhere else. And for Franklinton Arts District as an organization, we grew from that festival into the organization that we are now. And when we're talking about growth and where we are going, I look at the Franklinton Arts District, you know, from my perspective as the executive director, I look at the growth of the organization and as the destination as a, you know, it's a wonderful trajectory where we were 5 years ago as an organization, all volunteer run by a dedicated group of Board of Trustees, to where we are now, where we have a full-time staff member and additional part-time staff to serve those artists and arts organizations. That's just the right growth plan where we can sustain and accelerate the development and the attractant of future organizations. So where we have come, I only see it continuing in the next 5 years.
Kim?
Sure. So 16 years ago, Dr. Ann Sheely wrapped her arms around me and welcomed me to Mount Carmel College of Nursing. And at that time, of course, we all know that the hospital was still there, Mount Carmel West. And it was thriving and wonderful. And I will say, while we were, you know, sad to see it go, and I'll talk a little bit more about the college later, the college is still thriving and doing better than ever. And we do get asked all the time, well, is the college leaving too? And we're not. We are committed to staying in the area. We love Franklinton. And of course, you can still see us right from the freeway as you come in. And there are so many good things going on in our college. And the health system supports us. We do have a freestanding emergency room. So there is still patient care going on site. So while, like I said, there was change, there's still going to be development, obviously, in the area, but we are there to stay.
We are a vertically integrated affordable housing development company. So when we see an area like Franklinton and we see all of the business enterprises that are starting and the market rate rental housing being developed, there's always a concern of gentrification and kind of building to the point where those of limited means, younger professionals, artists, seniors that have fixed incomes are forced out of their neighborhoods because they can't afford to be there anymore. And we targeted Franklinton very early on, and really the city of Columbus and their development department really put this as a very high priority of area where they wanted to expend resources, because that's exactly what they didn't want to happen. And our company, along with several of our competitors, have developed a lot of affordable housing in the neighborhood. We're going to talk more about some specific developments that we have. It's never enough affordable housing. We do have a housing crisis in the city of Columbus, but I can tell you there has been some very well thought out plans that the city has put in place, so there are units available for those types of income households that I described. The West Franklinton Plan and the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan are two that are very visionary, and that it includes housing for all different incomes, so we can keep that really diverse mix of population that's there, and they can continue to live there.
Well, Jeff, this past July, Woda Cooper announced plans to renovate the old Starling Middle School on Central Avenue into 97 total housing units, plus McKinley Manor is going to have about 44, I think, with a total investment of $46 million. Now, how did these projects come about, and do you think there'll be more like them?
Yes, I'm sure there'll be more like them. There have been some affordable developments already constructed, and there's some under construction and some leasing. The Starling Middle School was put up for sale by the school board. We thought it was somewhat attractive. We have done adaptive reuses of schools in other areas in Ohio where we've taken old schools, repurposed them as affordable housing. We've somewhat garnered a little bit of a reputation for doing that and doing it well, although it's really risky work at best to try to calculate what your costs are going to be before you go in. So we were asked to take a look at the school, and could we transform it into affordable housing? And we put together a financing plan. We have a lot of buy-in from a lot of funders, including the City of Columbus, Franklin County's Magnet Fund, the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, the Affordable Housing Trust for Columbus and Franklin County, the Columbus-Franklin County Finance Authority, Park National Bank, and Marble Cliff Capital, which is based here in Columbus. So we put a plan together, and we said we could take the old school, create 45 units of housing in the school, and then there's a good bit of residual land, and we said, well, let's use that land and build some new units. So it's going to be a really nice mix on that campus of kind of those old historic units and new units. So we really think it will be something very unique, and it will lease up as soon as we're complete. Mckinley Manors, a joint venture that we worked on with the Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority. Again, it's a somewhat of a unique population that we're serving. We're going to service those that are 55 and older, and we're going to have vouchers there, so no tenant will pay more than 30% of their income. So we're really going to be helping those that probably have the highest need, and those that are probably going to be most rent challenged, as we continue to see a lot of market rate of rental housing being built there, and as prices go up, this will be something that population will be able to lease and stay in that neighborhood that they've grown to love.
That's great. Johnny, for you, over the years, the creative community in the Arts District has served as an economic driver for Franklinton. They have different needs from the people and firms that are investing maybe other places, including developers. So how does the Arts District work with both the artists and outside investors? And do you create a synergy, or is it natural?
Both. One of the big things from the Franklinton Arts District as an organization is to serve as an advocate, connector, collaborator, and resource to the artists and arts organizations within the district and the entire neighborhood. And when you have such a large creative community of individuals, those individuals' voices often can be lost. And we serve as that unified voice when it comes to speaking with developers about opportunities, the perspective of a working artist in a neighborhood that is rapidly developing. And we try to connect the those who are investing with the creative community through opportunities, paid opportunities for artists. One of the programs that we have facilitated over the last few years is called Alloy Art Spaces, where a developer or a business owner who's looking to work with visual artists and potentially have a mural placed on one or more of their buildings, we facilitate that through an open call. We find that open calls are accessible and equitable when it comes to the opportunities that the investor is looking to create.
What is an open call?
Oh, I apologize. An open call is the opportunity for anyone who has a portfolio to submit it for review by an independent jury. A jury that is comprised of neighborhood stakeholders, arts administrators, fellow artists within Franklinton. That way you are not just getting maybe the sole perspective of the developer, but you're getting a community input in what is going on the walls in the neighborhood. And with that, we also advocate for fair wages for artists when it comes to the public art that's being created. Artists are oftentimes one of the first people to be asked to do a lot for a very little. I have this whole wall, I have $500, can you do something with it? Well, we advocate for $15 a square foot, which is not where we want it to be, but with the market of public art, we're definitely moving forward and increasing that. And with that, through partnerships with Kaufman Development, Casto, New City Homes, and other smaller organizations and businesses, we've been able to facilitate over $100,000 in artist payments for public art that has gone up within the Arts District. So it's really important to make sure that there is that connectivity in a very authentic and equitable and accessible way between the developers and the artists. And eventually it leads to those organizations, those businesses following that model without our help. And that's how you create an authentic connection between them.
That's great. Kim, you mentioned that the School of Nursing isn't going anywhere. You want to tell us what's happening now on the campus and anything planned for the future?
Of course. So 1903, the congregations of the Sisters of the Holy Cross saw fit to have a nursing program on the site that we're located on to this day, 119 years ago. And we are still living out that mission that they put forth, and we are educating a wonderful group of individuals to become nurses, everywhere from the baccalaureate degree, all the way from the master's to the Doctor of Nursing Practice or the DNP. So we have grown those programs, the master's and the DNP program, over the last few years, have always facilitated nursing from a School of Nursing, which was done up until 1990. And then we became a baccalaureate degree granting, and that's the degree that our students initially get to this day. We are growing, we are changing our programming so we can stay in tune with what's going on from a technology perspective, from dealing with our patients. We know that there are staffing issues, and so we are working with our health system to ensure that we are getting our students to work in our facilities so that they can not only get experience, but then they get used to the environment. We do everything that we can to support our students. And we are fortunate in that we are one of the few programs in the state of Ohio that I know of where we directly admit our students to the college. So if you apply for admission, all of you know that have gone to college, you get into your college or university, and you are held there until the end of the freshman year when you apply to your major in the hopes that you get a seat. I can brag when I go out and recruit and say, I got a seat for you. And so that makes all the difference for students because, as you know, college can be costly. We want students to be able to hit the ground running, and that's what they do at Mount Carmel. And so they not only have the opportunity to come into a quality nursing program, which employers love the product that we produce, they are also able to know that they can get a job in our system. And so I have a pretty easy job in terms of selling the institution.
Well, keep it up. We need nurses.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Trent, you kind of tie everything together in Franklinton. So you run the Board of Trade, and it's really essential to creating. It was to creating the Franklinton Special Improvement District, or SID. Can you explain to us what a SID is and what's going to be the impact?
Sure. So when I originally came to this job in January 2010, that was actually the original assignment for me, was to investigate whether or not a special improvement district would make sense for the neighborhood at that time. And just to back up real quickly, you know, if you're not familiar with what a special improvement district is, you basically define an area that you want to provide direct services to, whether that's cleaning or safety services or any number of things. And then those property owners pay into an assessment that then funds all of that activity. And so at that time in 2010, it didn't make any sense at all because we didn't have nearly enough development in the neighborhood to make any sort of revenue that would be they would let us get something meaningful done. Actually, at that time, we would have probably been frustrated because we would have had just enough to do something, but not enough to do what we actually wanted to. So long and short, it didn't make sense back then. You fast forward to 2018, and you see all of the things that have taken place around us. You know, I then brought the conversation up with my board again and said, hey, well, you know, maybe we look at this again. So we did, and if anybody here has ever worked with a SID, they take a long time to get done. So we started that in June of 18, and we started our services on June 14th of 2021 is when we actually had the funding in place, we had the people ready to go, and we put services on the street. I have a couple of numbers to share with you. When people hear about the cleaning ambassadors, a lot of them thought, oh, well, you're going to have guys out there picking up pop cans and, you know, picking up cigarette butts and, you know, sweeping the sidewalk. And that's all true, but we do so much more than that. And if you would go to our website, franklintonbot.org, our annual report is on the homepage, and you can see some before and after photos towards the end of the presentation that shows the difference that has been made by the cleaning ambassadors. And to date, since June 14th of 2021, we have collected over 76,000 pounds of trash. We've collected and cleared off the sidewalks over 48,000 pounds of dirt and rock. And we have removed 105,000 pounds of yard waste. So trimming trees that were blocking sidewalks, clearing areas where a bunch of brush from a bush was like growing over. We actually uncovered 12 different parking spaces during the course of that time. And Dan Fertelman can talk all day long about parking issues. And it's like, wow, okay, so we had one, but look, there's 12 spots right there. We didn't even know they were there. So those are the types of things that we've accomplished with this. And we're quite different from other SIDs in Columbus because of that type of work, that manual labor, like actually cleaning things up that haven't been touched in decades type of things. And then in addition to that, we have 2 full-time safety ambassadors, which basically patrol the area. They will change a tire, they will jump a battery, they will help you get into your car if you locked yourself out, they will escort you to and from your car if you're worried about walking to your parking lot, all of those types of things. And then they deal with really serious issues like what you might find at Franklinton Square Shopping Plaza, where we have just a lot of sort of unsavory actors hanging out. So they do the full gamut. But the last thing I want to say, and then I'll be quiet about this, is that both of them, the cleaning ambassadors and the safety ambassadors, the thing I'm the proudest of is that, the cleaning ambassadors all come from Franklinton. I have not hired one cleaning ambassador so far that has not lived in Franklinton and has needed the opportunity to work. And the other thing is that they take the ambassador part of their role as seriously as they do the cleaning and the safety part. And that's the thing that we sold when we got everybody convinced to sign the petitions and start the process to raise the money. And so we sold that and we delivered that, and that's not me, that's those guys doing that. So if you see them out and about, if you're over in the neighborhood and you see them out working, say something to them. They love to hear from people, so they would love that.
The Franklinton Arts District falls within the Special Improvement District, and I can't begin to say how much we have benefited from the Special Improvement District, the cleaning ambassadors, the safety officers, and it's something that me and Trent have worked closely with to make sure that, even outside of the Arts District, but when, visitors are coming to the Arts District to walk around, oftentimes late into the night, that they not only enjoy their experience, but they feel safe when doing it. So it's a collaboration that, I'm very happy to have worked with Trent on as we, continue to grow and welcome new people to our area.
Well, we have about 3 or 4 minutes before we go to audience questions. So is there anything any of you would like to say about the biggest challenges, what you could recommend other communities do that want to be in the shoes of Franklinton? What is the biggest mistake leaders could make right now? And what might be the biggest surprises we have in store? So if each of you could take a minute, that'd be great.
I'd like to start with that. In my time there, we have, as a college, partnered with the community. We've had our students work with Avondale School down the street from us. Our foundation supported us where we were able to make blankets for all of the students in the school. And we learned so much just from that. It's not just about connecting our students to these, elementary school students to do a good thing. It's to give them the sense of community, understanding who they would be serving. And what we learned is there are 3, 4, 5 generations of individuals in the community. And it gave us a whole different perspective of who was around us and where we were planted, which was a good thing. And that there is such a sense of community in Franklinton. I could not say enough good things about the experiences that we learned through the eyes of those children and having served in that way. So I think that people sleep on the community. I'm also a member of the Historical Society. Mount Carmel gave us space, so that's our home for now. But when we get our permanent home, we are going to still be in Franklinton. So that's a great thing. And I also think that we have a strong sense of community. I'm not from Columbus, but I do feel the sense, and since I've lived in Columbus for the last 25 years, that Franklinton contributes to that small town feel that people talk about in Columbus. And there's really no other place like it. So I guess my recommendation for those that want to come in is to not lose the fact that there is a huge sense of community in that place. And that while there's redevelopment that you've heard that's going on and new housing and all those things, I know that the people that reside there are proud and want to maintain that sense of community there.
And we're going to move to live questions in just a minute. So anybody who has one can make your way to the microphone back there while we go to the other panelists if you want to say anything before the questions.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that thought on community. And a part of community, again, is to have a wide range of income levels that live right in the community. So I think a big challenge is going to be, as the area continues to grow economically, to continue to put resources there so affordable housing can be available. And one of the items coming up is the $1.5 billion bond issue on November 8th, and $200 million of that has been set aside to help develop affordable housing here in Columbus. And some of that could go right back into Franklinton to continue to develop housing that's affordable to those that need it the most. So to me, that's always a challenge in a neighborhood like this, that we have to remember that, you know, the market is going to take care of market rate housing and those with a great economic situation, but those that are in that community, that have been there, that have limited means, we really need to make sure that we continue to give them an option so they can remain a part of that community that you described.
And I'll quickly say that, you know, what you hear all the time, especially in politics these days, is that we all just have to work together. We all have to just come together and work together. And then nobody ever wants to, like, give an inch on their views to make the work actually happen. Franklinton got that part right, because there was a lot of collaboration beginning with when the Board of Trade was founded, and the original project was to elevate the railroad tracks down by Spaghetti Warehouse. That was the first project the Board of Trade ever took on, and it just continued from there. But Franklin got that part right. We argue and we disagree and we debate, but we don't let it stall the progress that we all know needs to happen.
The collaborative nature in Franklinton is unlike anything that I've experienced. I have worked in other neighborhoods and that are much smaller and have far less a sense of community. I mean, Franklinton is a large area, and people show up all the time. They have opinions. They state them. They fight for them. I sit on the Franklinton Area Commission, and I hear them fairly regularly, and I love that. It's a wonderful aspect, and I think that is the biggest thing as we continue to grow, is making sure that we are hearing the voices of the residents, of those who have been here, those who are looking to be a part of this community, long term, and also for residents and those who work and live here, newer ones, is not being complacent on, speaking your mind, having your voice heard. There are a lot of organizations who will be there for you to hear you and voice your concerns. And, it is if we do work together, but we have that within Franklinton. It's as more and more investment comes in, having that Franklinton voice.
Well, it's our longstanding tradition to take audience questions, and from those online too. Please send yours in. Doug is curating. Doug?
Deb, thank you very much, and thank you to today's panelists. I have some questions from our live stream audience. I'll start with one of them to get us going today. Carol Mary asks, Franklinton has such an important history, and we touched on that a little bit at the beginning of our program. What is the area doing to preserve and educate as well as move into the future?
Well, I can talk about that just from the perspective of how well I know so many members of the Columbus and the Franklinton historical societies. There is a lot of work happening right now to continue to preserve the Harrison House beyond what they've already been able to do for it. There's opportunities to acquire more property and be able to really assemble like a historical kind of campus, really, that would really be able to tell the comprehensive story of the story of Franklinton. So there's a lot being done, and I'll add quickly that the rock that sits at 315, well, it used to sit at 315, that commemorated the original location of Lucas Sullivant's home. It was hit by a car earlier this year, And so I was able to go over and rescue the 2 plaques that go with it. So we don't have the rock anymore because it got destroyed, but we do have the plaque. So that's one thing I did to preserve the history of Franklinton.
To add to Trent's comments is this is the 225th anniversary of Franklinton, our Franklintennial, and it was again a collaborative venture that we have been on for the past year, where it is the Franklinton Historical Society, the Board of Trade, residents looking to really showcase what we have experienced as a neighborhood over those more than 2 centuries, and recognize it, and also then let's look to the future through that lens.
Next question, please.
So this might be a stupid question, but I'll ask it anyway, a silly question. I lived in the short north like 30 years ago before it became, trendy. A lot of people feel like it's sort of gone, it's evolved, and now it's maybe gotten a little remote from the way it used to be when it was an artist colony. So my question is, what are you all thinking about doing to keep that from happening in Franklinton?
One of the things that I think makes the Franklinton Arts District unique is the organizational approach. Our Board of Trustees is comprised of not only members of the business community, but artists. And we are a 501c3 nonprofit arts organization, and our primary constituency is the artists and the arts organizations of the creative community. Now, as we continue to grow and attract new business, that is where our partnership with the Board of Trade and the Special Improvement District can continue to serve those businesses, but also to welcome them into the creative community in a authentic way, including programs like I discussed before.
Next question.
Thank you, Deb. Nancy Nanny asks, and Johnny, this might be another question for you, is there currently a theater in Franklinton or a plan to have one that features live stage performances, perhaps even some plays performed and or written by Franklinton residents?
Currently, we do not have a dedicated theater space. That is something that we as an organization, as well as other community members, are working. We're working on bringing back a previous theater company that was in Franklinton who has the desire to return. That unfortunately the space that they were in no longer became affordable. So we are working with different developers, property owners to bring them back. But one of the really exciting projects that we are on the early stages of is focusing more and more on a diverse range of the arts with an emphasis in music. We are working with nonprofit arts organizations, developers, local government to fund the creation of more music venues, more music resources, including rehearsal spaces, and really putting a emphasis on the performing arts to complement that very robust visual arts that we have right now.
Next question.
Hello. Thank you for this wonderful forum. My name is Peter Kocha. I am a Columbus native, grew up in Franklinton and the Hilltop, and I want to speak to one particular spot in Franklinton. As a elementary school student at Holy Family back in the late 50s, I remember seeing a rather remarkable thing. Sandusky Street, which was a very busy street in Franklinton, was closed. Barriers were brought in. Trucks came in and started to create this huge gulch ravine, for at least in my mind, that then became the Sandusky Spring Expressway, or 315 as we know it today. Well, that has sort of been the division, if you will, of Franklinton into East Franklinton and West Franklinton. And it seems to me that that's such a key point in the geography of Franklinton, and that it also presents a lot of opportunities and for how there can be some sort of a connection now between East Franklinton and West Franklinton. Unfortunately, for a number of years now, we've seen just a lot of just nothing happening there. Mount Carmel used to occupy a good part of the land on to the west. That's vacant there. Of course, the old Ford dealership that's not there anymore. On the other side is Holy Family School, which is shut up, et cetera, or has been boarded up and is really not used for anything. So I wanted to see, and since a number of you could probably relate to this or speak to this, what do you see as the potential for that particular location at where 315 and Broad Street are? What's the potential for some kind of, or what's your vision for how that could development of that particular area could serve sort of like the become a symbol for, because that is very close, as Trent mentioned, that is very close to where the Lucas Sullivant house, the original Lucas Sullivant house was.
Thank you. Anybody have any ideas on that?
Yeah. So I know that, well, the rock, of course, got destroyed, and people wanted us to just put it right back up right away. And it's like, well, we can't do that because this site is going to be developed at some point. So that overpass of 315 is absolutely part of the conversations about how we're going to beautify and make that look much more welcoming to be a pedestrian thoroughfare that feels safe. Because with the openness of 315 on either side and, cars going, 70, 80 miles an hour all the time, it just doesn't feel safe. Even though there's a fence there and everything like that, it feels weird. So we want to do something similar to what they did on Long Street and the Long Street Bridge, and something similar to that. Not elaborate, because to put a cap there, like what's in the short north, that would be just prohibitively expensive, at least today. But your point's well taken. I mean, that is an important part of the neighborhood. It also does serve as a gateway to where the large Franklinton sign is there at the 315 exit. And so that really does kind of open up the west part of the neighborhood, and it is important that we have that looking much, much better than it does today.
Thank you.
My name is Michelle Delzell, and I'm the granddaughter of Carol Stewart, and I'm actually writing a book about her life. Thank you. And I was invited by Miss Deborah Price to come today. I'm a teacher. I teach for Columbus City Schools. And so as I'm listening to you present and answer questions, there's a lot of things that are coming to my mind. So I really have a lot more questions than what I'm going to ask right now. So if maybe we could exchange cards, I don't know. So the first question that I have is for Mr. Woda. When you speak of Starling and redeveloping it, what rent are we looking at? How much are those units going to be rented for? Like, is it going to be affordable for the neighborhood? Or, I mean, how's that goal, and then how's that goal going to be met?
Yes, it's going to be affordable. We're utilizing as one of our financing tools the housing tax credit.
Okay.
And we'll be targeting households, and we'll have tiered rents, and we'll be targeting households anywhere from 30% of area median gross income to 80%. So it'll be a lot of workforce type housing, but it will be affordable based for those income levels.
Okay. Is there a dollar? So we don't have a dollar amount right now.
I don't have the dollar amounts with me, but it will probably be in the 500 to 900 range, something like that.
Okay. My next question is for Ms. Campbell. You say that you're recruiting and that you work for Mount Carmel. Are there or will there be or has there been any programs directly for the poor, that serve the poor, the students in the neighborhood who really have no way to pay for college? Are there any recruitment efforts to try to get accessibility to the poor students, to the poor people?
So all of the recruitment that is done is at all of the local schools in a 9-county area. And for those students who are underserved or have issues with paying, which there's a lot of them, we work with them, our financial aid office, myself. We talk to them about, first of all, filling out the form, because a lot of them, that's a barrier, understanding what is required to fill out the FAFSA form, which is that free application for federal student aid. The other barrier is a lot of young people, particularly those who are underserved and underrepresented, don't have typical family structures. So there's lots of different issues to be concerned. I have a guardian. I only have one parent. Somebody's not, available, and can I still get money? So we afford every opportunity to work with each and every student to help eliminate as many barriers as we can, to help them find funding. We also accept waivers from the high schools so that the application fee itself is not a barrier. And we do everything that we can. I should say, nothing more special than anyone else, because the Department of Education has very strict requirements from a financial aid perspective as to what we can do. But we do meet each and every student to address their needs to the best of our ability.
But as of right now, there are no specific names of a program that is up and running where the college is saying, we have set aside this much money in scholarship funds or whatever for a poor student to come and attend.
The Choose Ohio First is the most recent.
And that's a Mount Carmel created and driven program?
That is done in conjunction with the Department of Ed that Mount Carmel specifically has for our students, where they are designated to get a certain percentage of dollars for their education through the Choose Ohio First. And that award came to us over $2 million
Well, that's
to help those students, yes.
Mr. Smith, how did you weigh all that trash? No, just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Just kidding. What did you say? What did I do with it?
No.
How did you weigh it?
How did
how did I
you
weigh
weigh
it?
it? No, you don't
Oh.
have to answer that. It was I was just like, wow, I was perplexed. Like, what scale?
Well,
Because I teach science, and I'm like, how
we
would I?
had to back into it scientifically. We had to collect trash for the course of about 2 months, and we would weigh bags every now and then we would get an average weight for the bag. And
That's
we did
cool.
the same thing with the buckets and the cans and everything else, so we have an
I
average
see.
weight.
Okay. Well, we're learning about accuracy and precision right now in science, so that would be an interesting.
Michelle?
Yes, ma'am.
I think we would love to meet with you, but I think there's
I
one
just
more.
have one more. Just
Okay,
one.
real quickly,
Yeah,
because there's
just one
somebody
more.
behind you.
And I'm
Okay.
sorry. I mean, my questions are long.
I know.
These are just the ones that.
Go ahead.
Right. I'm sorry. This is my first time ever.
That's okay.
Wait, back here. Do you include, Mr. Smith, do you include kids' opportunities? By the way, I was the original cleaning ambassador. I was picking up trash
I
in
do know that,
Franklinton
yeah.
when I was like
Yeah.
8. But do you include opportunities for kids, for cleaning ambassadors? Like, do you go to Starling? Do you go to Avondale? Do you go to charter schools?
Yeah, we've worked with Franklinton Prep High School, we've worked with Franklinton High School, we've worked with Starling, we've worked with Avondale, we've worked with Central High School, we've worked with Flex High School. So yeah, and also the Dana Avenue Elementary that's run by United College Prep. We've done a lot of programs with them when we had the Little League program up and actively running. So yeah, we do try to get them involved and show them the importance of why it's nice to have a clean neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I wish we had more time, and I know there's some people who didn't get to ask their questions, so feel free to check on us later. I want to personally thank the two people that have been my cohorts in this from the very beginning that are present here today, Representative Mike Stinziano and George Arnold, who really were fundamental in providing great leadership on this issue as we got started. So I think Carol Stewart would be proud. We're really looking forward to all the wonderful things ahead for Franklinton. Thank you all for being here today.
Well, I hope you found today's forum inspiring about all the great things happening in Franklinton. So thank you to our online virtual seat patrons and the Center for Human Kindness at the Columbus Foundation and the Columbus Dispatch for supporting today's live stream. And our special appreciation to today's speakers, Kim Campbell, Johnny Riddle, Trent Smith, Jeffrey Woda, and our host, Deb Price. Please make plans to join us next Wednesday as we meet the Ohio candidates for governor with Nan Whaley scheduled to attend and Governor Mike DeWine invited to attend. Thank you all for joining us. We could not do this without you. We look forward to seeing you next Wednesday as the Columbus Metropolitan Club presents another community conversation. Thank you.